Welcome to the KINGSBEAT podcast. I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We are, of course, a Blue Wire podcast. Joining me today from Fox 40, Mr. Sean Cunningham. No Brendan Nunez today, but we do have Sean. Sean, what's going on?
Well, to quote my buddy Brendan Nunez, not a whole lot, because there never is for him. It must be today because he can't join us. This is a very busy time, and just finding moments to be able to get this in the kind of make time and get in the way and talk about what we've been seeing at not only what training camp was, but what the preseason has kind of become for this Kings team. It's been a lot of fun. The weather's great. There's Aftershock is in town, the music festival, right down the road. So, a lot going on, but I'm here to talk Kings basketball with you, James.
You do know you could have hit me up if you wanted Aftershock tickets, right?
Well, so here's the thing, and that's very kind of you. I
didn't think it was your music.
Well, I'm not. There's things over there that I'd go over to. Like Evanescence is there. I like. And by the way, lead guitarist from Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go check them out. There's like, if you look at all of them, I'd make my way in. I like all kinds of music. So, but I'm actually considering maybe doing Golden Sky if I can fit it in, but we'll have to see how things work. I'm not a big country fan, but so much of country music these days is pop music. So I like pop music. So I'd probably mosey over there
for the ladies. That's what Sean's there for. The ladies.
I'm there for everything. It's just vibes, and you know what? I've been to Aftershock. It's a very fun. Even though the majority of the music wouldn't be something I totally gravitate to, there are a lot of pockets that I really like, and I'd go check them out. I don't remember the headliners off the top of my head, but like Nothing But Thieves, I think was played there before. I like them a lot.
You got Motley Crue, Anthrax.
Okay, I'd see that. Not so much Anthrax, but I'd see Motley Crue.
Who's the other one? The other big name that's there today. Tomorrow is Disturbed.
Oh, here's the. Oh, I like Disturbed. So
Flogging Molly's there tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, Iron Maiden, no. Slayer, no. Motley Crue, sure. Slipknot, no, not my cup of tea. Although I do like Corey Taylor a lot. Disturbed, I do like Disturbed. Pantera, Judas Priest, Five Finger Death Punch, not really.
Judas Priest is today.
Yeah. I do like Evanescence. I do like Breaking Benjamin. Falling in Reverse, I do. Seether, Stained, I used to kind of like, but Aaron Lewis went off the deep end. He still got a great voice, though. Cypress Hill, I like Tech Nine. I like Tom Morello. I didn't know Tom Morello was going to be there.
Yeah, I think that's today. Fun. I think that's
really
today.
Okay. Insane Clown Posse, that's wild. Now we're getting into some things that
all these bands. I'm looking at it like, what's going on?
Filter, I know Filter. That's from back in the day. Juliette Lewis, the actress, she's got her band there. That's pretty cool. We got one of the Ramones there. I don't know who Marky Ramone is, but okay. There's a few. I'd have fun. I'd be fine here. I'd be able to have a good time.
Okay,
for sure. Yeah.
All right. So, welcome in, everybody.
Welcome in.
We talked about it at the beginning. We are doing a live show today, but no Brendan Nunez today. He had a scheduling conflict, so just Sean and I don't know, hanging out on a Saturday afternoon, talking Aftershock, which is like random, but But Odyssey puts on Aftershock, so because we have 106.5, 94.7 N, 98 Rock, 96.9, 102.5. all within our building, where ESPN 1320 is.
That's a good group. I listen to a lot of those, and it's a good group. Even if you don't listen to the radio all that much, I still check out music that's all there. So.
Oh yeah, totally. And then like Golden Sky, we also were a major part of Golden Sky. So
did I see Shabuzi going to Golden Sky?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe that's fake news. Maybe I made that up.
I don't know.
I will. I don't know. Yeah, I can't even click over there at the moment. So
it's cool. Within our studio, we now have a full stage setup that's sponsored by the Hard Rock Cafe. So a lot of when we have these festivals, we'll get an act or two that comes through and actually
Yeah.
plays a set in our studio, in our station, which is cool. So like last year we had Daughtry, but like earlier this year we had like Teddy Swims, and then we had the dude
Dude, he's great.
who writes for who's done like he co-authored like 88 of Taylor Swift songs. You probably know who he is, Sean. I don't know his
Jack
name.
Antonoff.
Yes, yeah, he came
Yeah.
through maybe like 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and did a
Thanks for the
set.
heads up. That'd have been cool. And all good.
Those are things where I don't really know they're happening until it's like I'm just about to walk out of the studio, and then we have a bunch of guests there. So maybe if you want to hit one of these, I'll tell you.
I'm not a big Swiftie, but I do have. I guess I can share it. I don't mind sharing this. I have a publicist friend who tends to work with like artists on like their album releases and book releases and stuff like that. And I got a like a signed Taylor Swift vinyl from the Midnights. No, I don't remember. I don't remember the album. Not this most recent. Yeah, this most recent one and the last one before that. The one that had Lavender Sky on there, which I actually like that one. But anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's get into basketball. Before we do that, let's just go through. What's up, Miss Mac? What's up, Zabo? Philippe, good to see you. Monica, hello. Boombox Benny. We got
Good names.
Dave Garcia in here. We got Secure in the Bagel. We got Polo L. We got the great Jill Adge in here hanging out. We have Germs. Hello, Germs. Westcat Sack Kings fan who's been inundated with all of the music from Aftershock and can hear it from his home. Welcome in, everybody. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat at any time. Sean and I will do our best to ignore them until the last possible moment, and then maybe we will answer them. But Dave Garcia, I'm not sure what happened to Brendan, but like he's not here today. I don't know.
Alex Quinn, I did finish DeMar DeRozan's book, and it's very good.
Damn it. I have not finished it yet. I thought I was going to get through it really quick, but then I got sick and I had a headache when I got sick and I was not able to get through anything. I just lost a week of my life, like pretty much just disappeared. Let's get into this.
The best time to read those when you're sick. I mean, in fairness, you were sick. You should be reading.
I would agree with you normally, but I had the COVID and it really like I had like a headache for like 3 days. Yeah, the COVID. Let's jump into this. First and foremost, Sean is getting his podcasting candle ready.
That's
I can tell.
What I was doing.
He is.
You know what?
He is getting his.
I think my lighter.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Tilt down, Sean. Tilt down. That's how you get it to work. Okay. So while Sean is getting the podcast candle ready. Sorry if we just burned through like 7 or 8 minutes of your time talking things other than basketball. We're not sorry.
This is still a free podcast, so
it is. That's true. So number one, if you're watching here on YouTube and you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. Number two, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. We need a goal. We need to get to 5,000 subscribers. How about that? Sean, what is that?
Somebody, Mrs. Mac, asked what
the perfect Christmas. Sean, you can't pull out a Christmas candle.
Well, here's the thing: there's no rules, and she asked what scent. And there's a lot of candle in this, and I just grabbed what was next to me, and ironically, they're both Christmas candles. The other one is like a 'tis the season. So, whoops! As I hit the microphone and almost burned down the house, we're good.
We do. This is a road to 5,000. Let's get 5,000 subs sometime this season. How about that? Welcome in. Again, jump on board with the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber, cranking out content nonstop with the start of camp. Lots to talk about. But I think the main focus of today's podcast, we'll start out with some injury news. Number one, Kevin Huerter has been cleared to resume basketball-related activities. That's a big deal. For me, that I don't know in the grand scheme of things, like where it stands, but it's anytime you can get one of your top 7 players back in the fray. And today is October 12th. He got cleared yesterday on October 11th. He'll be ramped up 1-on-1, 2v2, 3v3. Finally, he'll do 5v5. But I would say that there is now an outside shot that Kevin Huerter will be cleared before October 24th, which is the start of the regular season. Maybe I'm being slightly optimistic there, but if it were, say, 5 days from now and Kevin was getting cleared, I would say there's no way. The fact that there's 10 days, 12 days, that is a really good sign for the Sacramento Kings. Sean, where are you at with Kevin getting cleared?
No, it's great news. I mean, he's still on the roster, and this is a roster that needs perimeter shooting in the worst way. So whatever it takes to get him back healthy, confident, all that stuff, I'm looking forward to it. I want to see him play with this group. I want to see him play alongside DeRozan. I don't care if it's in the starting lineup or coming off the bench, although I'm kind of on record as saying I think he's going to be the starter for the bulk of the season. Maybe not starting the season as a starter, but I think he'll finish the season having started more games than not. But regardless, I mean, he's gonna play. They're gonna need him. They're gonna need him at what he was 2 years ago and not what he was last year. But even the threat of Kevin Huerter on the floor is good. I mean, this guy constantly is moving. He is obviously someone that stretches the floor, and you have to respect. So definitely looking forward to mixing him back in with this group. And let's just go back to that first preseason game, and you saw Mike Brown not really having any sets or calls for the offense, and everyone knowing where to be. It was very fluid. It was very potent, and I couldn't help but think to myself, can it get much better than this? And I even asked that to Mike, and he went right to the perimeter shooting. And of course it can, with maybe the insertion of Kevin Huerter and having a couple more players that can actually get up threes. But from an offensive standpoint, they've shown a lot, and it had me wonder, wow, what would Kevin add to this, and how would it look? And he understands the spacing, and so much of what they do, and is capable of running dribble handoff, and made me kind of long for that. I was like, I can't wait to see what that looks like. And so far so good.
Yeah. Okay. So I personally do not believe that Kevin Herter will start more games than he comes off the bench. I think Ellis is the perfect starter for this team. But that's neither here nor there. The fact that Kevin Herter is close to returning, and the fact that Kevin Herter has a skill set that this team desperately needs. To me, it's great that he's getting closer to return. I want to see what he looks like in a bench unit that includes, Trey Lyles and Malik Monk and whoever else. I mean, whether it's Jalen McDaniel or it's Alex Len or it's Jordan McLaughlin, whoever it is that's playing alongside them. I just think that that is a crazy potent three-man bench, especially on the offensive end. Maybe I'm wrong. It's very possible that Mike will go back to like old reliable and what he's been able to really trust for the last couple of years. But I also, I mean, I do see like the value of Kevin Herter as like a crazy off-ball mover. And the other thing is, I think Kevin is a very, very underrated passer, and so I definitely think that that's part of this as well. So I think we're gonna have to wait and see, and we're gonna have to wait how it plays out over like maybe the first month and a half of the season before I think we make any knee jerk reaction to who is going to be the starter and who's not, unless Mike just like throws all caution to the wind and Kevin Huerter starts game one, and then I think that's your starter. So yeah, I think there's some intrigue there. On top of that, I did speak to Jordan McLaughlin on Wednesday. He told me he rolled his ankle the week before camp started and was very, very disappointed that happened. It was a grade 2 sprain, and he was on the court on Wednesday doing shoot around and looked really fluid and is moving really well. I asked him how long does he think he's going to be out, and he says he's super close to getting cleared and he's very excited to get back out on the court. I don't think there's a big difference between contact and non-contact for Kevin Herter, who had major shoulder surgery, versus a grade 2 ankle sprain. I think McLaughlin will be able to resume basketball-related activities. Like, we'll be able to ramp up faster, if that makes sense. And the team probably won't be as cautious with him. We don't have anything on Trey Lyles at all.
I mean,
He was,
it's the same, you know.
yeah,
It's
it's 3 weeks
weeks
from,
away.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going into training camp, they knew that Jordan and Kevin were about a week away, a little more than a
Uh-huh.
week away before the reevaluation period. So yeah, Trey is he's a little further along.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we've got that situation. Trey, yeah, 3 weeks away from the start of camp, and we're basically, aren't we 2 weeks in? I think we are. So maybe Trey will get cleared by the end of this week. Maybe he won't. We don't know. But
Yeah, I
again,
don't
that's a
know.
big piece. That's a big piece to what's happening here. But while he's been out, it's opened the door for some other guys. Let's just get to well, let's finish up. Again, we talked about this a little bit, but Orlando Robinson is out long term. Like he's out 4 weeks from last week. I think it
Probably a
happened
little
on
over a month, right?
yeah, a little over a month, and we'll have to see what that means for him because he is on a partially guaranteed contract. I don't know what it means for him. Mike Brown has been clear to say that Orlando Robinson was playing really well when he did get hurt, so maybe they do retain him. Um, I don't know what's going to happen there. We'll have to wait and see. And then yesterday, the Stockton Kings announced that they had traded Jordan Ford and Deontay Burton and a 2025 second round pick for the returning player rights of Drew Timme. So Tamar is now part of the Stockton Kings arsenal. At least it looks like he will be. We'll have to wait and see, like if he wants to play in the G League. If he doesn't want to play in the G League, then that's all for none. But I think there's potential for like a weird Scalabiciere, Drew Timme Twin Tower situation in Stockton, right? Sean,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It'll be see. I still think there's a lot of. I actually think there's a little bit more mystery than I thought there'd be in terms of how this roster shakes out a little bit. I know in the chat here somebody had already talked about how does Boogie Ellis make this team? How does I think it's obviously Isaac Jones getting some attention, who's a two-way player. I could easily see some things get shifted around a little bit before the start of the season.
Yeah, so Sean, I had someone tell me within the walls on Wednesday, like, don't be surprised if like a couple of these young players actually play this season. And I was like, okay, like Isaac Jones, and like, well, okay, maybe he's one of them, but like, I think that the plan, especially early in the season when you're worried about Kevin Herter and Trey Lyles and all that stuff, it might be again a guy like Mason Jones might get an opportunity here where maybe there wasn't all that much of an opportunity before, and certainly a guy like Isaac Jones who I think the Kings feel like they may have stumbled upon something there. 6'8", 7'3" wingspan, not a huge leaper, but a good enough leaper, a good enough athlete. And then he's doing two of the things that the Kings love, which is number one, he's crashing the offensive glass, which the Kings were really, really good at in the second preseason game. I think they had 18 offensive rebounds, which is spectacular. But then on top of that, he's been able to hit threes, at least in practice. And I guess let's jump off there. Isaac Jones, what have you seen so far from Isaac Jones? And what the general vibe around the team is pretty high on Isaac Jones as a potential player.
His name comes up every day, whether it's even preseason games, if it's practice. Mike Brown has talked a lot about him. Obviously, his teammates have, and it's funny. Like I asked him the other day about his skill set, and if anybody kind of has a skill set on the team on the roster, and or if he's more of kind of a unicorn in that way. And he agreed because he thinks he's a little bit more of a unicorn in that way, that there's not somebody that can really do so many of the things that he does. And boy, I'll tell you, one of the probably the most sensational play I saw him make, aside from his passing. I think it was Jill in our chat who talked about him kind of playing a little bit of that Sabonis role with some of the passing that he's demonstrated, but being late on that weak side block and still being able to protect the rim there was really impressive. Now, granted, he airballed the three on the other end, but the it for me, it's just so incredible because obviously his story is just so great. Like it's been documented. He hasn't been playing basketball that long. Seeing what we saw in summer league, and yeah, I don't take much from that because you're playing haphazard basketball with a lot of people that aren't really basketball players or specifically NBA players. But some of the things that he did in summer league, like he had a moment or two where you go, wow, that was impressive.
Yeah.
But him playing with actual basketball talent and mostly NBA talent on this team, it really brings out what he does so well. And so it has been attractive. You can see where he has a fit on this team. Certainly it's a small sample size, and because I would argue he wasn't great in summer league, but the confidence is definitely there. He has a very serious, calm demeanor. I think he's enjoying this. This it's the moment isn't too big for him, so I think he's enjoying this. But when those lights go on, certainly you saw some good stuff on Wednesday. You saw some bad stuff last night in Golden State, and I know you'll talk more about that. But yeah, I think this is what preseason is. You get to see some of the good and the bad. He's going to be no different than someone trying to find his way. And if he, man, if this is for real and this is what he can add, I think they may have found something. But steady is the course, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we have to do the never too high, never too low. And I think again, when this team is fully healthy and you have Trey Lyles back and Alex Len is there, it's going to be difficult to see Isaac Jones getting a bunch of minutes. But I'd also like there are certain things that I'm always listening for, and like Sean and I, like as we've covered this team forever, there are certain things like I remember, was it 2 years ago, Sean, you had heard the possibility of Rashawn Holmes starting alongside Domantas Sabonis to open the season. And then we got into training camp and like Rashawn had said he had never played with Domantas Sabonis even once. He had played against him every day at practice, but he'd never played on the same team as him. And we're like, oh, okay, well, that's weird because that's not at all what you had heard. And like we have this huge buzz about Isaac Jones, and then I asked Isaac Jones about whether he's got one of those like patent lobs from Malik Monk, and he's like, "Oh no, I can't wait. I've seen it happen, and I think it's happened to him on the court." But he's like, "Yeah, no, I haven't got to play with Malik." And I'm like, "Okay, wait a sec. So this is a guy who a lot of people are considering as potentially part of the rotation, but he hasn't played with a guy that he would play with." And so that's when like a little red flag goes off in my head and say, okay, let's calm down a little bit. Let's see what he has. Let's see what he can bring to the table. Let's give him some time in the G League to get really the pace and the speed, because the G League pace is actually much more frenetic and much quicker pace than it is at the NBA level. Let's see what he's got. Let's not like put a whole bunch of like expectations on a kid that realistically may not be a huge part, outside of the fact that I think he's turned heads and he's made himself into like a Keon Ellis type story for this team already, where they're intrigued to see where he goes, and they're probably going to invest more time and energy into him than they will some of the other young prospects. Does that make sense, Sean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you said it. I mean, it's again, small sample sizes, but sometimes it's those small sample sizes that you try to bet on a little bit, especially when it comes to areas of need. So, I think a two-way contract is right there with what Isaac Jones. That's essentially what he needs. We're not talking a lot about Isaiah Crawford, and I think that's because him, he's heading to G League. That's where he's gonna learn to grow and be around it. But it's nice that he's been around this team, being able to serve a purpose, especially considering that there has been so many guys that have been injured and there's opportunity aplenty. So I think certainly Isaac has made the most of it. You still have 3 more preseason games to go. I expect to see him featured quite a bit in there, and I'm looking forward to it because, uh, like I said, I mean, like it or not, he's offering something that this team kind of sorely needs, and they don't really have that. Even when Trey Lyles comes back, now granted they can't play 13 guys, 12 guys, they don't even hardly play 10 guys in most nights. But having somebody, if especially if he can get out there and play physical without fouling and do all these different things, you can certainly see where that would be sorely needed on this team.
No, I totally agree. Like the idea of him and where he can play, where he might be able to develop, is pretty substantial. Like I do like the idea of Isaac Jones. And again, I want to see him play with the starters. We saw that a little bit more in game 2 than we
Yeah.
saw in game 1, right? I want to see him out there. And what does it look like in functionality? Like, how does he move? A couple of things has done. Some Jill, I think, mentioned in the chat about the passing. Um, like, just to be totally honest, he made a pass to. It was such a basic pass, but he made a pass to Alex Len for a dunk in the first game. And what he did is he went to the basket, did a pump fake. Everyone went up in the air. He dropped it to Alex Len on the backside for a dunk. Marvin Bagley never made that pass one time as a King that I remember. And so I instantly looked at that and went, oh, an interior pass to another big man. That is impressive. And I want to see if he can do more of that. He's also got a couple of offensive rebounds. He's sprayed to the hot guy, which is, one of Mike Brown's like real basic tenets. Again, we've heard it like every single day about crashing the glass, right? We've heard about how it's Monty McNair's idea, how the New Zealand Olympic team or national team talked to Mike Brown about it, about what, like how they crash the offensive glass. That's a huge thing. I think that's where Isaac has really like turned heads, is his ability to listen and say, okay, if the one thing I need to do is crash the glass to get more minutes, I'm going to crash the glass every single time. And that's a good sign, because what you're seeing is a player who's coachable, and then has like the, again, 6'8" and 7'3" wingspan, and like some of the skill set that you're looking for. But I'm kind of here for it. The other guy, Isaiah Crawford. I'm intrigued by Isaiah Crawford too. Like he's got like the Lou Dort body, or Isaac Okoro type body. And you're looking, he's just like really long armed, like super, super strong. And I think he's one of those players that is definitely worth a gamble on, to see if you can create a 3-and-D defender that can like multi-positional, like 2-3-4 player, almost like the young version of what Terry Taylor should be for this team. And Terry Taylor has not had a good showing in the first 2 preseason games, but still that idea of a 3-and-D guy who can play multiple positions. Is there anything you've seen from Crawford that kind of stands out?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not
No,
really.
no, it's fine. Yeah. I think like for me, he's shown enough where he at least he's strong and physical, and again, I think he can guard multiple positions. And then he has hit a couple of threes, and you're like, okay, like maybe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, like to me, when you get a guy who's a two-way player, you typically just go, okay, you just settled into the fact that that's a G League player. Mason Jones and Isaac Jones are a little bit different, because Mason could be in the mix to be elevated in a way, especially with the way that they are a little, light in the backcourt. And then Isaac obviously opened up minds to where, I still think two-way is where he's at, but you can see what he does finding a way into this roster, even as a two-way player. But I'm not saying elevating him to a roster spot. He would still be a two-way player. So the only two-way players that I've seen anything from that make me think that they could have some sort of impact or contribution in any type of way would be Isaac or Mason Jones from the two-way slots. Isaiah Crawford, while I'm looking forward to seeing him play, I'm looking forward to seeing him play bulk minutes in Stockton for the most part, and I just don't see a pathway for him into Sacramento, at least for this first season.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I believe he's going to be handled a lot like Keon Ellis was in year 1, where he spends almost the entire season at the G League level. And I think it's perfect for him, because to be honest with you, I think he can develop skill. And I also think the G League, if you build the roster the right way, having players like him who are asked to do very specific things and not play outside of who they are, is a really good thing. And that's, again, I think the easiest pathway from the G League to the NBA is as a 3-and-D player, whether it's at the 2, the 3, the 4. It's really difficult to make it from the G League to the pros as like a score first guy, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there is a way for him to make it. I just think that this season he's going to spend a tremendous amount of time just getting the speed and the pace of what the NBA and the G League is, and just getting more experience at a higher level. So I'm there with that. I would say like Mason Jones, he's been a little bit of a talk of camp because of he's very noisy,
Yeah.
and I know the team likes like his like he talks on defense. He's like, he's a guy who does make a lot of noise. And I think they've given him an opportunity in the first two season games to kind of play with the starters. And I think the results have not at all been what anyone expected. Like it's been rough. And like I think,
A lot of fouling. A lot of fouling,
yes.
which is
Yeah.
really going to be difficult to be able to defend without fouling. So, um, fortunately, he's got
Yeah.
3 more. The first 2 haven't gone well at all.
Yeah, Sean, I think in the first game he had 6 fouls. In the second game he had 5 fouls. But also he was 2 of 5 from the field in the first game, and he was
2 of those
one
are
of 8.
triples, right?
Yeah,
Both
he
were
hit 2
both were
triples.
triples. Yeah,
Yeah, but they even the triples, they weren't really sustainable triples. They were off the dribble and like up from pretty deep. In the second game, he went 1 of 8 from the field and over 6 from three. I
right.
hope he's able to calm down and just kind of like be who he is, because realistically, I thought he was I mean, his numbers at the G League level last year were off the charts. Like I think it's 15.9 points, 8.2 assists, and like 5 rebounds per game. And he shot like well over 40% from three. So he did everything he should do to earn like the opportunity to compete for the big club. But I think his preseason so far has been a little anxious and a little overzealous. And I hope that he calms down and actually gives himself an opportunity to show what he can do. Because so far it's been a little erratic, and I just feel for him because you can feel it, right? He's just like trying. He's trying to do too much,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
Well, it's you know, it's he's not on an island by himself either. There's a lot of guys that all of a sudden are kind of itching there all of a sudden, and you have to play so fast. You have to compete both ways, crash the glass, get back on defense. I mean, it's all these things that are being asked from them. And he's also playing in a different body than he did a year ago. So, for people who don't know, he dropped nearly 50 pounds from December to June. And it's, it I still like his activity, and I still hear a lot of great things that have happened in camp. But yeah, when those lights go on, it's a little bit different. And if you remember last year, Chris Duarte had that same problem. Trying to come out of a funk, come back from a season full of injury, be a lot different, play a little bit different, play physical without fouling, and the fouls just racked up just so much. So yeah, he's got 3 more preseason games, and I think the one, as we're recording this on Saturday, tomorrow's game on Sunday will probably be the one where we get the biggest true test of your rotational players. That will be those rotational players in the course of the season, and I think it'll be a very crucial game for someone like Mason Jones.
Yeah, I think so too. And your Chris Duarte comp is like spot on. I'd say the only difference is Chris Duarte came to the team and already had a rotational spot. Like
Right,
they gave
100%.
up 2 second-round picks to get him, thinking, okay, we got a guy who was a a lottery pick 2 years earlier and had played serious minutes, and then he just was never able to sort of develop who he was. Okay, let's get back to the basics here. We are you're watching the KINGSBEAT podcast. Sean Cunningham from Fox 40 and myself are carrying you through this Saturday afternoon, giving you a little bit of Kings content. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. We're making the push to 5,000. That's our goal this
Ooh,
season, to get to 5,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. So yeah, and those thumbs up actually help. They help the algorithm and everything
they
else.
help us. By the way, because I was looking at our chat, we're on YouTube right now. I I saw a comment earlier. It was almost 20 minutes ago from Chuck Lee about YouTube TV, and that was a conversation you and I were having before we went live. And
Yeah.
I was hoping you saw the comment, because I would like you to address this. Because if Chuck Lee's problem with YouTube TV is what he's having, then yeah, I'm gonna have to make some arrangement changes with my
I
with
didn't
some family
see.
members. He said that he lives in Citrus Heights, and YouTube TV blocked out live Kings games. Is that
Okay.
true, James Ham? What
Okay.
is Chuck
So
Lee doing wrong?
during the regular season, I've been able to watch everything on NBC Sports Bay Area in California. I also was able to watch the game last night at a local at like the clubhouse where um, I'm trying to think what TV they have, but they had NBA TV and it wasn't blacked out. That is usually okay. So let me just kind of like pull back a little bit because I worked for NBC. I understand sort of the dynamics, what happens here, right? The Kings have very strict rules. They can't allow their television signal to go out further than like a 90-mile radius, right? Because of the Warriors. They have this little circle that they have to live in. So somebody's job is literally to put in every single one of the zip codes from that area and allow them to be fed out onto a platform like YouTube TV. So if you're not getting the YouTube TV signal, if YouTube TV does not have like NBA TV or something else, you need to call them and tell them. It used to be that I could reach out and say, hey, like people are having issues with this, but like tomorrow's game is going to be on kings.com only.
Right.
And if you're not like, if it does not allow you to watch the game, you need to tweet at the Kings on Twitter and tell them that your area code is for some reason not coming up on their stream. And that's again because they have to live in this like it's a map and it's got all of like the little counties and all the zip codes, and they have to input all of those zip codes into the batch that is allowed to watch whatever game is happening. So you got me? So it's a little complicated, but that's part of the problem. Um, I would also like if you can't get it on YouTube TV or whatever, you can try to do like a free platform that actually might have NBA TV, and it might just be for some reason your YouTube TV or reset your YouTube TV. There's lots of reasons why it won't actually go through. Um,
NBA TV, by the way, so they had the Warriors broadcast then, yeah?
oh, it was god awful.
So but you were able to watch it though on YouTube TV?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're good then. Yeah, and someone mentioned the Sam Mitchell stuff. That was awkward, but
The
I don't
Sam
know if
Mitchell
you saw it.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys saw it, if everyone in here saw it, but yes, that was the him and is it Chris Miles, I think
Yeah, it is
is
Chris
the host.
Miles.
But they had a nice little social media thing. It looked a little staged, but they had it. They looks like they put things to bed, and it was like a misunderstanding or something. I don't know. It was
That
awkward
wasn't
though.
a misunderstanding. That was a guy with a really big ego trying to show up a young guy and embarrass
That's
him,
rough.
and actually created a very, very unsafe situation.
Did you see what happened today? They're like make amends where he showed up at his doorstep, and it was like, oh no, you guys got it all wrong.
Yeah, unless they
Yeah.
want to put Sam Mitchell's address up there, then like get out of here, Sam Mitchell.
Well, did
Because
you no?
like,
But did you see what I was talking about though?
yeah, no, I
Where he
saw it.
okay, cool.
Yeah, but I don't know if you heard the entire clip because that was
Oh
at
yeah,
halftime
no,
of the Kings game.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
he fully put that kid's well,
S-
Miles
Well,
is
he's saying that it wasn't his address though. Like that's why I was wondering if you saw what
yeah,
today with Chris showing up at his doorstep, knocking on his door. Did you see
yeah.
that?
Yeah, oh, no, I did,
Okay,
I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
just tell you that if I was on the air with somebody, while I was at NBC and they decided to put my
Oh yeah,
address out,
yeah,
I would stop the broadcast right there. I would set my mic down and I would grab them by the collar and we would have words right there. Because I've got a family that I have to worry about,
yeah. That's
and
wild.
there are people that aren't aren't sane and that make me uncomfortable, and it's one of the reasons why I live in a gated community because there are some people who have made me uncomfortable
That's a
during my
flex.
career.
That's a flex.
No, it's not a flex. Like,
Okay.
Sean, I hope that if you have 2 options and one of them is an apartment complex with somebody that is gated and one that's not, you choose a gated one because there are some fans out there that are off in certain ways, and I don't feel comfortable with them at all knowing where I live and where my family is.
No, I mean
So
that goes without saying. You don't need to put somebody's address out on the air, but it was
no, no.
the thing today put me a little bit. It's like, okay, well, it feels better, but it doesn't take away the awkwardness of last night. That was pretty crazy.
No, I mean, that dude, that I would be selling that condo or whatever it is. Yeah, I wouldn't be going back there because there are people that are weird and show up in weird places and you're like, "What are you doing here?" The last thing I'd want is for someone to be standing outside my door. And if someone's standing outside my door, I'm going to ask them to take a couple of steps onto my property. So when I handle business and protect my family,
You
that
don't want to see Ham when he's angry.
it's on my property. No, yeah, you don't want to see me when I'm angry. That's for sure. I'm not scared. I see like Boombox Benny. It's not that. It's that
Come
you
on,
have
pronounce it the
to.
right way. Pronounce it
y-
the right way.
Boombox Benny.
Okay, he didn't say scared.
Oh,
He said
scared.
scared. There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah. No, no, that's not it. I definitely like if you have a family, you have to worry about those things, and if you're in the public eye, you have to worry about those things even more. So, yeah, just my own thing. Like I was sitting there like shocked and like appalled. I'm like, he did not just give his address. Like, oh no. So anyway, yeah, that was awkward. Let's get to the other thing, which is that the Sacramento Kings offense and their starting five is absolutely spectacular and so much fun to watch without running a single play set. And I don't know how it carries over into the regular season, but there are some things we're seeing, Sean, already from this offense that are bonkers. That again, they're not
Bottle it
running
up.
places. Yeah,
Bottle it up. You know,
yeah, stop
it's
doing anything special now. Just hold on to it. Don't let anybody see any of it. Like, let's see what this looks like on game one.
and I mean, how about last night? I mean, what DeMar DeRozan and that Kings offense did really in that first quarter, even in the second quarter, I mean, at times was just brilliant. I mean, they put up 41 in that second half in the first game, but 6 assists last night from DeRozan, you know, still efficient. I mean, my goodness, I thought you talk about the playmaking. It's just, how have you seen anything you haven't liked yet? I mean, no. The answer is no. Like, not when he's on the floor. So, um, yeah, it's been very very impressive.
Yeah, I mean the thing that stood out to me in game one was the Warriors kept deciding to hide a small guy on Keegan Murray. And so Keegan Murray ran right down the middle of the lane, and Domantas Sabonis threw it up high, and Keegan caught it and laid it up for two alley oops. And it's like, oh, you're gonna go small on Keegan. Look what we're gonna do to you. And to me,
Yeah,
that was tremendous. You're like, oh, we have not seen that wrinkle. And the back cuts, not so much from the starting group, but Sabonis to McDaniels was spectacular in game one. The fact that Jalen McDaniels couldn't finish at the rim is a problem, but it's not a problem that you really worry about. I mean, like he's getting so many open looks around the rim. I thought that was spectacular. The someone mentioned the triple screen for Sabonis. That was wild. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Sean, you take it for a sec.
oh, his sneezes are so loud, they are jarring. If you're ever by any, like, it absolutely scares me every time. Are you good?
I'm usually a two sneeze guys. I think it was only
Oh, it's
one.
coming. It's
Yeah,
coming.
I think we're okay though. Yeah, we also saw Sabonis at the top of the key. I like that they're running their offense and they're forcing Sabonis out further on some sets and then down lower on some sets. He's not living in the same exact area, and he hit DeMar DeRozan on a cut to the basket for a layup, which is spectacular. And then there's the rub screen, that like the triple screen that they did where Sabonis was above the arc on the right side, and they just kept bumping his guy all the way, and Sabonis just ran all the way around the outside and for a wide open dunk. I have this feeling, Sean, that this offense is going to be absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna jinx anything because, clearly, can they keep up the pace? It's been in such short bursts. Tomorrow's gonna show a lot, I think, but also, like, if I'm just being critical, you like they were able to get some threes going last night, but you kind of want to see if they're going to remain that way, especially with DeRozan, who has so much of a mid range game. And again, that's just absolutely, you know, being hypercritical, but journalistically, just not, you know, diving in, you know, head first yet and totally believing that that's what this is going to be, leaving a little bit of room for some doubt or some things to be seen. But to me, it just comes down to the perimeter. And, you know, I have every belief that this team will be able to play fast despite DeRozan's advanced state and his age. I mean, he doesn't, I mean, this guy, it's wild, man. I mean, he always takes such great care of his body. He's never really had this like devastating injury. Even at 35, just he's impressive, man. Just incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I think Sean is ready to like pull the
Yeah, dude,
plug
yeah.
on tomorrow. Like he's
It's
I'm not quite dead yet, Sean.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, dude, it's like if they're like I told you, like I said this in I've said this in radio interviews, like DeMar DeRozan has given his team belief, like it's religion. It really is, and it's I think it trickles down to the fan base. I asked him earlier this week. I talked to him after the game in the locker room, and I'm like, "Do you realize like what this fan like what you mean to this fan base already?" You know, and it's like his answer was great. Like, I don't want to butcher it. If anyone didn't see it, please go take a look at it. It's on the Fox 40 YouTube channel or even on my Twitter feed. I just that whole he was so upbeat, and I felt like, especially in that first game, James, I don't know if you caught this as well, but like the first few minutes of that offense doing what it was doing, and granted they weren't really doing shit on defense, but
At all.
you know, the Warriors were answering them shot for shot basically. But it was so much fun, and you just see this big Kool-Aid smile on his face, ear to ear grin. Like, he was so happy at just what was happening on the court in terms of offensively and having so much fun. They come out of the timeout, and you could just seeing him have a moment with Fox, and he's just like, you just see him, it's like, man, this is fun. And he just had so much fun, and I felt like that trickled into the locker room after the game. And it's weird because usually, you know, here you are preseason, you're not taking too much from preseason, you know, comments don't mean that much, but their body language just says so much. And for him to just be like a kid on Christmas opening presents, like a veteran who's played in the league this long, who's experienced so much that he's had. And granted, I've said this even in the offseason, like Sacramento, the Kings, where they are currently, and wanting to sustain some playoff success, and DeRozan knowing that he hasn't been a championship player. He's played into the Eastern Conference Finals before, but he always ran into LeBron James. He doesn't really have he's played a lot of playoff games, but he hasn't really gone deep, and it hasn't really sustained a lot. And I think this represents such a great opportunity for him. So for him to have that joy and have that like giddiness to be able to play in an offense like this where everyone is just not eating, they're feasting, James. Like
Oh yeah.
they are, it is a Thanksgiving feast for people who are offensively gifted players and who put up points. And to me, I was just blown away at his enjoyment and his way to kind of take all that, even after the first freaking preseason game.
Okay, so couple of things. Number one, shout out to Kings fans. 17,889 people. It was a
Yeah.
sellout for the preseason opener. Like, are you kidding me?
Well,
Like,
and if you remember though, it was that way when they made the playoffs the year before last, the first preseason game back, they did the same. They sold it out. So absolutely kudos to them.
yeah, absolutely wild. The atmosphere was spectacular. Also, like, look,
A lot of
they
Warrior
didn't.
fans still,
Yeah, there
but
was, but
that's to be expected.
the Kings didn't play any defense at all. And I mean, they gave up. It ended up being 28 3-point makes to the Warriors in game one. And like to put that in perspective, the Warriors are like one of the greatest shooting teams of all time. I'd actually say that like they are the greatest shooting team of all time. They also have like the greatest shooter of all time. They used to have the two greatest shooters of all time. Like I'm not like talking in superlatives here and like over like building up who Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are. They are literally the greatest shooters of all time. And for years, those are your stars. The most three-pointers they'd ever made in franchise history was 27, and they hit 28 in a preseason game. Now, again, it doesn't count because it's preseason. But that's just to put it in perspective how hot the Warriors were from behind the arc. And it was everybody. It was Kuminga. It was Draymond Green. It was Buddy Hield hitting a bunch. Steph had a little bit to do with it. But Pajemski, everybody's hitting threes, right? And saying all of that, the Kings get to halftime, and I think they'd given up 15 makes from three at halftime. And they were up 68-66 without hitting hardly any threes themselves and giving up, again, half the time down, the Warriors were scoring 3 points and they were only scoring 2, and they still had a lead. It's like the Warriors couldn't shake them besides the fact that, despite the fact that they were hitting every single three that they shot. They ended up hitting 28 3-point shots, and I think they only hit 44 total shots for the game. So only 16 shots were 16 makes weren't threes. So I think that that's like a really good sign that the flow of the offense, and that was without running a single play set. They just did a flow offense and said, hey, roll the ball out there. You guys show us what you got. Just get comfortable with each other. Like read each other's body language, read and react. Let's see what you got. And I was super impressed. And that's what happens when you have a bunch of super high IQ basketball players.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. It's a fun time because usually preseason is dreck. And I think you probably saw a little bit of that last night in the second half, especially when I think as somebody called it in the chat earlier, Whistletown. That's apropos. But it's been fun so far, and it's got a new feeling. It definitely feels a little bit different. And it's funny because they still have so many guys that are out right now. So it's a fun time to be a Kings fan.
Yeah, I think Mike even pointed out we scored 68 points in the first half, and that was without Kevin Huerter and without Trey Lyles, who are both very, very good offensive players. Game 2, I think they made a bunch of nice adjustments. We didn't see nearly the 3-point proficiency from the Golden State Warriors. I think they hit like 12 threes, something like that. I don't know. I didn't look at the final box, although I probably have the final box up right here. And
what's in the box?
What's in the box? Let's see. The Golden State Warriors were 13 of 34. So they still shot 38.2%, but it was the fact that they weren't able to get off like 52 threes that were played a big part of it. The other thing I want to point out from game 2, and this is something that DeMar DeRozan talked about after the game, and it's that Keegan Murray, he goes 5 of 11 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3, which isn't great. And he wasn't great in the first game either, shooting the 3. That's something he's going to need to tighten up a lot. But he went 6 of 8 from the free throw line. And DeMar talked about how he's been pushing Keegan Murray to get to the free throw line and maybe even showing him some tricks to get to the free throw line. How big do you think that can be for this team this season, having another guy like Keegan, 6'8", very good athlete, long, who might be able to get to the free throw line as well?
I mean, it would be huge, but I think the reality there is this is going to benefit Keegan down the road. I think a lot of the things that even learning some of the tricks that DeMar DeRozan has up his sleeve, he also gets a lot of calls because they know that's part of his game. And for Keegan, it would be so new. I would equate it much like when we've seen Fox for the greater part of his years here in Sacramento get into the paint, get hit, and he can't draw the foul. And that's because typically he's trying to draw the foul, not try to score. And that's why officials don't typically call those types of things. But DeMar DeRozan is a bigger body, much like Keegan is. And yeah, if Keegan can get some of the speed that DeRozan has in his game and being able to ISO and get past people, I don't know that Keegan has that in him. I mean, we always talk about that first step and, being able to do that. But I think that's part of the evolution of his offensive game for an offensively gifted player. So I like to see it. I think it will benefit him down the line. I'm not so sure it's going to be this year, but hopefully that's just another toolbox that he can add eventually.
Yeah. Also, someone brought up the free throws. The Kings did miss 11 free throws. I think they went 22 of 33. 21 of 33. Let me see. I've got it right here. 21 of 33. They missed 12 free throws. 6 of those, though, just so people know, they came from Colby Jones and from Mason Jones. So again, I'm not going to get like overly concerned that Keegan Murray shot 6 of 8 from the from the free throw line, or that DeRozan shot 3 of 4, or that Sabonis hit 60% at 3 of 5. These are all numbers that are fine. It's that some of the younger guys who aren't going to be in the rotation probably missed like 6 of the 12 So again, not going to panic there. And just so we kind of cap the offensive rebounding numbers, the Kings did have 18 offensive rebounds and 47 overall rebounds. That's really impressive. And what it did is it forced the Warriors to try to combat that. So the Warriors ended up with 43 defensive rebounds, which is a ton, to the Kings just 29. And that is again because the Kings are crashing the glass and forcing the other team to sort of change who they are as well. You're not going to be able to get out on a fast break a whole bunch when your coaches are yelling at you because the other team is getting every offensive rebound. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Sean, let's get to this really quick. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. I did Boombox Betting. You did throw an A's question in there that I'll talk about in just a little bit. High times KG. Yeah, maybe I'll grow the goatee back. Sorry if it's alarming to everybody.
Did you
But
do a beard?
well, no, I like my goatee I've had for years, but
You've never
I
done a beard, right? I've
no, I
never
can't
seen.
I can't
No.
grow a beard. I can't grow a beard.
Yeah,
No, they just
mine.
mean the goatee. And my goatee is turning way too white, so maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. I'm getting old, people. I did. So go ahead and throw questions in the chat.
Sweet.
Sean, what are you looking for tomorrow?
Well, shoot, I'm looking at seeing that first what they did in the first half sustain for an entire game. I think you're going to see a lot of the rotational players. You might see it go to a 8 to 9 man rotation for the bulk of that game, and then maybe it gets a little blown open. But Mike Brown has warned as much that would be the game that they want to really kind of open it up and play starters bulk minutes and into the fourth quarter. And maybe that changes if it's a super one-sided game. But to me, yeah, it's the final one at Golden One Center before they open up the season. So 3:00 tip. Sometimes those Sunday games can be a little
Slow.
laissez-faire, and
Yeah.
yeah. So even on the crowd's hand, I don't like to bash the fans at all because that's nonsense. But sometimes those crowds can take a little bit of a you need to kind of shake them alive, so they really respond to what's happening on the floor to do that. And if the players don't have it, the crowd doesn't have it. So those are always instances where I say the crowd has to bring their energy, because that energy is typically what the players will feed off of.
Yeah, and I would. I think one of the reasons why the
Can't believe I
crowd.
just said. By the way, I can't believe I just said that for a preseason game.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons why the crowd on Sundays, especially the early Sunday games, is usually a little off is because a lot of people bring their children to games on Sundays that are 3:00 starts because it's not your typical 7:00 start. And so if you can get kids going, they're spectacular, but they're not going to be like the ringleaders. And I think a lot of volume comes from adults being in the building, and so that's just one aspect to it. But hey, look, what I'm looking for is you just played one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the world, and now you're playing the team that was literally the worst in the NBA last season in 3-point percentage. This is not a good 3-point shooting team. So let's not see Portland come in and throw up 22 made 3-pointers because you're a bad defensive team from behind the arc and they feel that confidence coming in. I think that would be like one thing I would point to. Outside of that, I would like to see the starters get quite a bit of action, which I think we will get, right? Sean, the one other player that we haven't really talked about, which I don't know why, is Boogie Ellis. And someone
Have
had
we
a
talked much about Keon Ellis?
we haven't talked that much about Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis in game 2 was spectacular. Keon Ellis in game 1 kind of just stayed back and played the role of the fifth guy. Good defensive, but offensively wasn't really there. Game 2, I thought he was spectacular.
I thought he was fine. I mean,
I thought he was too.
you were
Yeah.
hoping to see him do a little bit more defensively, but they weren't doing anything defensively. So
Yeah.
he had a nice steal and a dunk in the second half, I believe it was. That was pretty nice. So
No, I agree. But Boogie Ellis is a guy who someone brought it up earlier. He's on what they call an Exhibit 10 contract, which means it's basically a summer insurance policy. So if he gets hurt, like and can never play basketball again. He's actually like covered under insurance and everything. Exhibit 10s are like there's sort of make good contracts that maybe give you a little bit of guaranteed money, but the guaranteed money is like for an exhibit 10, I think is capped out at like $75,000 or something like that. And it might even be less than that for a player like him. I think he's been tremendous. And for me, if I'm building a G League squad, I need a guy like that who just flat out doesn't care. He's going to come in and shoot the three ball. And I mean, he scored in double figures in both games. He's hit, I think he's 5 of 11 or 6 of 11 from three, something like that in his first 2 preseason games. This is how you make an impact and how you turn heads and how you get like sort of a bigger invitation from a team is by coming out and doing something that's unexpected. But if the Kings have a couple options here, number one, if they don't keep Boogie Ellis and they decide to waive him, I'm almost positive he has to go into the G League draft. And that's because he's never gone through the process of being in the G League draft before. So that's not a good thing because someone else could say, hey, we like that kid and he could go. Like a couple of years ago, Sam Merrill, the Kings had Sam Merrill in camp. They gave him like a $250,000 like roster bonus. And so he wasn't eligible to go to the G League at all. And then he went into the G League draft and he ended up being the first pick in the G League draft and the Kings lost him. So I think it's kind of interesting what they'll have to do here with him because he has played well. I don't know if he's played well enough to be on everybody else's radar. And so you might have to gamble here. Then again, the Kings have an open roster spot and maybe they keep Boogie Ellis on it. They also don't have a two-way contract and that's available. I think Mason Jones is a player which you might consider bumping up to the main roster and opening a two-way spot for Keon Ellis. But I'm not sure that that's going to be what happens either. And then the other two, I think, like Isaiah Crawford and Isaac Jones have both played well enough that you're going to keep them on two-way contracts. Do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
this?
I mean, if you were gonna bet on one of them, to me, it's the yeah. I mean, the other thing you could do is just you could make Boogie a contract player, and then not, maybe you don't keep one of the back end players, like even someone like Jalen McDaniels, or maybe something with Orlando Robinson. Although I do suspect Orlando will still be on the team. There's crazier things have happened, but I still think the two-way is kind of where Boogie will exist, and I think it's going to take some maneuvering on their part if they want to keep him, to try to keep him. And I think that's kind of the lane I would be betting on. Certainly, you want to see some better production out of Mason Jones in these preseason contests because it's been a little bit tough. But that's still the way I would bet, is that you would elevate possibly Mason and then make him a two-way player.
Yeah. I think it is going to get a little bit complicated. Like they've got some roster maneuvering to do here at the end, and it all makes sense. Like this isn't. You don't want to lose a player if you do think that he's got the skill. And I also think there is a possibility that Boogie Ellis, if he doesn't have either a two-way or a regular roster spot, could go overseas and make a lot more money. And he's young and he might go do that. Where some of these other guys have gone over and made a bunch of money or made at least enough money, and they're coming back and trying to give it one more shot to get to the bigs, like a Scalabiciere or Drew Timmy, stuff like that. So I think Jill Adge mentioned earlier that that Jordan, why am I drawing a blank? Jordan
Ford.
Jordan Ford has already signed overseas. So when you're trading it basically his returning player rights, if he decides to come back from overseas and play in the G League, he would now be property of the Wisconsin Herd.
As would Deontay Burton. But
yeah, and Deontay Burton.
Jordan is playing overseas, and good luck to him.
Yeah. Also, let's get into some of your guys' questions. We'll just call this the business of basketball.
I don't have a sounder.
How about that's okay. There it is.
Like that. I don't know. Did that work? I don't even know why. Who does that? Like I don't even know where that came from. Go ahead.
It's the Three Stooges. Give me Boogie Ellis over Colby Jones right now. Okay, Sean, I don't know why it is, but Colby Jones, I don't want to say he's regressed, but it's almost like the what is it? Like the jack of all trades, master of none. Because he doesn't have something to specifically rely on, he's just getting lost in the shuffle. Where Boogie Ellis is coming out and just hitting every three he takes, or at least 55% of them. So it kind of stands out that he's not kind of Mason Jones is a much bigger personality and just takes control. And they have other guys in that group of young players who are going out there and at least like taking threes. And it feels like Colby's trying to fill too many like needs of his teammates as opposed to being hungry for himself. And that just means he's getting lost in the shuffle. Do you feel that, or like where are you at with Colby Jones? Because like, look, Colby Jones is on a guaranteed deal for this year, I believe but it also could be partially guaranteed
It's
because
yeah,
yeah,
it's not. First of all, it's not. It's one of those deals that kind of like Keon Ellis had signed, where you're not. It's it's 2.1 for this year. Next year, it's not guaranteed at all, and they have club option in 26, 27, and then he's unrestricted free agent in 27, 28. But it's for
yeah,
very money. So, yeah, I mean, look, the master of none is it's. I think that's pretty spot on to a degree, but I will say, like, one of the things I liked about him last year as a rookie is how he impacted the game. Like, he would be in so many different, situations. I mean, he was almost like a 5, 5, and 5 kinda guy, right? Um, you wanted to see him grow from that, and it's been a little bit tough sledding. I think summer league put him in a position to, hey, can you thrive as a number two, maybe number one scoring option? Can you be a point guard? Can you be a distributor, but also be a ball dominant type of person? Can you score, but also be a playmaker? And I think they've tried to really round hole square peg, him in a lot of ways where sometimes you just need him to go out there and exist. And I think ultimately, we were talking about this a little bit with Mason, I'm sorry, with Mason, but also Isaac specifically. I think Colby needs to be in a position where he's playing with really solid basketball players. And I think ultimately, if you could somehow get him to play with like someone like Fox, Monk, DeRozan, even Domas, he'd benefit a lot from that. And I don't think he gets a lot of that opportunity. But he's also a young guy still trying to find his way. I'm not a guy that totally says give up on Colby. Certainly, you haven't loved what you've seen, but it's a very low end type of contract that gives him team control for quite some time. So, if you're saying Boogie or Colby, well, that's a discussion you'd have to have. For me, certainly, Boogie Ellis adds something from a scoring standpoint, but a lot of what Colby Jones doesn't show up on the box score. And you need a lot of that. He can be pretty tenacious. He can be a guy. He's a guy where honestly, it'd be fun to watch him play alongside someone like Devin Carter, because they're both kind of tough nosed type of guys that I think Devin might be a little bit ahead of him in that regard and might bring some of that out of him. But you just really need to see. I'd like to see him play with guys that are more veteran laden type player.
yeah. I think that like he does get exposed as a player who doesn't have like a natural scoring like go-to move. Like again, he's got a nice floater. He can shoot the three. There are things that he does that I think we're just not seeing right now, and it's because he's almost uncomfortable on the court. It looks a little bit, and I think he would look better if you put him with starters, and it wouldn't matter that he didn't score if you put him with starters, because again he's going to be doing all the dirty work. And like Jill Adge brings up that McDaniels has been pretty bad so far. I'd also say like McDaniels played the whole second half in game one, or a lot of the second half, and like he's not a primary scoring option, and he wasn't surrounded by a primary scoring option. And if he was, it was Boogie Ellis, who's never played in the league before. And so when you put somebody in a situation, we saw it with Kessler Edwards in summer league. When you put him in a situation where it's like, hey, I need you to be more, it's like, well, that's not who I am. I'm a 3-and-D guy. I need somebody else to break down the defense and kick it to me in the corner for an open three, and that's not happening. And so I think Colby's a little different in that he can create a little bit by himself, But still, he has to rise up. He has to show that he's got more here in the next 3 games, and that's gonna be tough because he might not get all that much of an opportunity, especially this next game. I think he's a bubble guy, and especially if you have a whole bunch of other players that you kind of like that are up and coming, and the fact that he's under contract at very inexpensive rate, I think you still have a year to figure out if he's what you want or not, and maybe you spend most of the time in the G League and you see what he has. But I also look at Devin Carter, and once Devin Carter's back, you start adding up these other players, and like I don't know where Colby Jones fits in the overall like 3-year plan of the Kings if Devin Carter and Keon Ellis and again Mason Jones or some of these other players seem to have passed him, and that's going to be really tough. Anyway, so I think that's kind of an interesting look that we're gonna have to see how it all plays out. Um, let's see. The one other thing I wanted to get to is something that Sean and I can talk about, but it's not so much Kings related. And it was this one from Boombox Benny.
Mm.
Is it possible that we keep the A's? Any update on how that stadium is going to work? If playoff happen, they won't play or etc. I've got some thoughts on this, Sean, but I'll let you start. What you got something for
No,
me on
go
this?
ahead. I mean, I think we've talked about it before. Like, do you want to put that? You want to put it back up there again so I can see it? Like, I know he was rattling. The question was rattling off a few, but I mean,
Here we go.
it's gonna be an adjustment. I think it is. I'm not gonna say it's. I think it is possible the A's do stay, but I will say, like, I think it's bigger than that. I think it's Sacramento showing itself off as a market to be able to hold Major League Baseball. Whether it's the A's or a different team, remains to be seen. Like, I don't have confidence that the A's are going to Vegas. I just don't. I I don't at all. I know those they've blown up the Tropicana. They had already started doing that when I was down there in July in Vegas, but that the Tropicana fell this past week. That doesn't mean that that's going to be a ballpark at the end of the day.
I
If
agree.
at the end of the day, if that doesn't become a ballpark and the A's doesn't come to fruition, that will become more resorts and casinos and things of that nature. So,
It's
um,
already going to become a very big new hotel and casino right there in that spot, and they've only carved out 9 acres for the A's. The A's won't have like strip malls, they won't have restaurants, they won't have a downtown like plaza area like what we see in Sacramento. And not only that, but 9 acres, just so people understand, like a city block is considered, I think it's 2.5 acres. So if you have 2 city blocks wide and 2 city blocks deep, that's 10 acres. And that's basically, just to put it in perspective, again, Golden One Center is between 5th and 7th on and between J and L. So that is exactly like 4 city blocks. Have you got me? Like it's 2 blocks wide, 2 blocks deep. And even K Street would be in the middle, so it's even a little bit bigger than that because of what would be a normal throughway, 2-lane road or 4-lane road going between. Um, so basically, we're talking about putting a Major League Baseball stadium, which is 30,000 seats versus 17,000, 18,000 seats. It's also a Major League Baseball field as opposed to a basketball court. So just imagine that the stadium has to be that much bigger. And we're talking about a smaller parcel of land than what the Golden One and the Sawyer and all of that area right there. It's smaller than that by an acre. So they get nothing. All they get is a stadium that just like dropped into a casino complex that they own nothing of. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Sean is shaking
yeah,
his head.
yeah. I mean, I just feel like playoffs when they will they play here when they get like you're a temporary market. It's for the time being. That they have the possibility to be able to pull the A's out during the playoffs, and certainly if they were to make a World Series, they would not be playing in Sacramento. I just don't see that happening at all. But it's gonna be it is what it is. Like they just don't have a lot of the amenities that a lot of the stadiums have. They're gonna try to work on doing that, but it's a 3, possibly 4-year proposition. So we'll see what it looks like. I'm excited for it. I mean, baseball in this town. Look, I say it all the time. Like the A's were not staying in Oakland, and I think while that sucks, Sacramento is not the one that's prying Oakland, the A's from Oakland. They weren't staying there, so there were options for where the A's could stay. And are they facilitating a move to Vegas? In theory, yes, but there's not a lot of people that have a lot of faith that that's going to happen. So
Yeah, and on that note, like, look, if they weren't going to play here in Sacramento, they were probably going to play in Utah or somewhere else.
right,
And the reason why
or even in
Sacramento,
Vegas in AAA,
yeah,
and or even trying to work in something out with the Giants. I mean, it was going to be nasty. So
yeah, and the reason why they wanted to say here is because NBC was able to work out a deal for a local television with the local television deal that they already had in Oakland. And so not only would they not have to find somewhere to play, but then they would have had to try to negotiate a television deal for what would be a short-term deal, right? So if they go to Utah and it's going to be 3 years in Utah, like how much money are you really going to get out of the Utah market for a rental baseball like television deal? As opposed to Sacramento, where you can still use your Bay Area market. You still get your Bay Area market for part of the A's broadcast, but you're in Sacramento. So so there's a lot of pluses to Sacramento. My concern is a couple of things just to run through them. Like number one, they don't have the facilities to really do this, and whatever they're building right now, it's going to be like haphazardly thrown together. They don't have a visitors clubhouse. They don't have like
yet,
like in a batting
yet,
yet, but still, it's a big deal. They also, because they're going to still house the River Cats and the A's, you're looking at like 150 something days a year where baseball would be played. So that's why they're going to do an artificial turf, which nobody wants. Nobody in Major League Baseball. The players union doesn't want it. None of the players want to go play on artificial turf in Sacramento when it's going to be 110 degrees in the middle of summer and the turf will get up to like 185 degrees. You're going to have to cancel games. That's a concern. But because they're playing both minor league and Major League Baseball on the same field, there's no way for the field to recover. And that's why natural grass to recover. That's why they were talking about doing artificial turf. So those are two issues. But I'll say this. I've heard that there are already investors that are very intrigued with Sacramento and willing to build a baseball stadium, help build a baseball
yep,
stadium here in Sacramento. I also think by showing Major League Baseball for 3 years that you can house a major league team. And if there is no team in Oakland anymore, and now opens up another Northern California market where I do believe that Major League Baseball, if it's not the A's, if it is expansion, they will listen, and that there is a high likelihood that baseball will end up in Sacramento, whether it's the A's or an expansion team. So yeah, I think it's like an intriguing thing. What you don't want is for this to be a horrible negative experience for Major League Baseball and for the players. And you don't want to have someone blow out a knee on turf. You don't want to have games canceled because of heat. You don't want to have someone get sick because of heat. Like there's all these things that the A's and the River Cats need to figure out like right now in order to make this a good experience. The last thing I'm going to say about this today is if playoffs happen, they won't play here. This is like the biggest, like, I know this was made like into a big story. For me, that's the biggest, like, no shit Sherlock of all time. Like, you're not going to play Major League Baseball playoffs in a 13,000 uh, seat facility. That's just not going to happen. Look at what we're seeing with the Dodgers Padres series, the Detroit and but like Cleveland series. Like baseball playoffs are crazy. There are 35, 40,000 people packed in. It's super exciting. You need that. So if you have to play Major League Baseball playoffs in the Bay Area at the Giants Stadium, that's what you have to do. It's just the reality of the situation. And that's until you would build a new baseball stadium here in Sacramento that would actually be able to house all that. So again, I know this is a Kings podcast, but that doesn't mean that Sean and I don't have an opinion or haven't done at least some of the research on what's happening here. Right.
Yeah, and again, it's to be expected, but hopefully hopefully they'll be rewarded for it. You know, this is I keep calling Sacramento it's not a Seattle Sacramento situation. It's a Sacramento Oklahoma City situation when New Orleans had Hurricane Katrina and they had to temporarily house the Hornets, and that worked to their favor. To
Yeah.
the moon, Sacramento. Yeah.
Yeah, like, look, and I get if you're a Oakland A's fan. Like, I've been an Oakland A's fan since I was a little kid. If you can see in my bar, I have Oakland A's stuff all over the place. I hate that they're leaving Oakland. I do.
Yep.
But if they're going to leave Oakland, I want them to come to Sacramento because I think that Oakland A's fans, like, there will come a moment where you might go, okay, like, look, I live in Walnut Creek. I can drive to Sacramento almost as quickly as I can get to the Bay Area with traffic. And I think that there's that possibility that you could recover some A's fans here in Sacramento. But like I've said this so many times, if they do leave, I'm done with baseball. I don't think there's anything that Sacramento is doing that's particularly wrong in this situation. They were leaving either way. And anything you read in about the A's attendance in Oakland, like, look, its ownership is bad. They don't allow you to embrace any player because they trade them for a bag of peanuts every year. Anyone who gets good is traded away, and like, you're not allowed to be a true fan of a team. And what I mean by that is, like, De'Aaron Fox is entering his 8th season as a Sacramento King. You know how many people have like 6 different versions of his jersey at home? And how many people have their little kid got a De'Aaron Fox jersey as their first jersey, and now their kid is a 16-year-old and drives, but now needs an adult size large jersey? That happens all the time. You're building a culture of fandom, and the A's have done everything in their power to destroy that with their fan base. So it's unfortunate, and I really do hope that they end up here. They eventually end up with a new owner in Sacramento, but that's a lot.
It's a lot. That's a
That's
big
a lot.
wish list.
Okay,
But
Sean, do you have any last thoughts? Let's do final thoughts on the Kings preseason. Is there anything else you want to see? What are you hoping for, like, here in the next, like, 3 games?
well, I think as much as I was looking forward to that first game tomorrow, I'm actually more excited for because it'll look more like what you'll see in the regular season in theory, at least from those starting players and kind of the main bulk of what this team is with respect to those guys that are injured that can't contribute at the moment. So very much looking forward to that. That's really about it. I mean, these next couple weeks before the season tips off will be a little bit redundant, and we'll probably our conversation that we're having right now is going to be a lot different probably on the 22nd, 10 days from now, as we're 2 days from tipping off the season at that point. But uh this is the fun time. You know, you get to kind of enjoy this. The preseason schedule can sometimes tend to get in the way and show you some things that aren't truly the most truthful or accurate in terms of where guys stand or what they mean to this team or what to expect for them for the season. So you don't want to do too many knee jerk overreactions, which I think I might be guilty of that as well. But knowing that going into these next few weeks is going to be paramount as you try to see how this roster is fit together. It's never a finished product. So, but to me, actually, really in looking at the Kings, it really makes me think of the rest of the West. And I don't know how much you have seen other preseason games in the NBA. I've seen a few. I've tried to kind of stay away from it for the most part, but there are teams I'm fascinated with. Memphis kind of being one of them. You know, New Orleans kind of being another one. You have some question marks for some teams. Denver is kind of another one that I'm a little intrigued by, but certainly I can't help but feel in these next few weeks I'm really going to start looking more and more and more at what the Western Conference is looking like, because this is such a wild season. I mean, there's so many good teams in the West. There's so much talent in the West, and you know, it's not their success. The Kings' success is going to be predicated upon what these other teams do as well. So it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's see what I'm looking forward to over the next. I want to see what they look like with the starters playing more concerted minutes, like, on Sunday. But I'm also going to take it with a grain of salt because I don't think the Portland Trailblazers are very good, And I think they proved that last year. And I think they're still just a collection of talent and not really a team yet. So that's a bit of a problem.
Can
I
I say
also,
something else real quick? Because
yeah,
like I know there's so much focus on defense and what you're not seeing, and I'm to blame there as well. But like you don't see defense typically in the preseason. Like it's just you just don't. You'll see guys playing hard. You'll see guys that are trying to make a name and try to catch someone's eye, and you'll see moments and flashes, and that's all well and good. But preseason basketball is a necessary evil, and you want to make sure you look good. And guys are say that to a coach, he'd probably tell me to kick rocks, but the reality is you don't see a lot of defense in the preseason.
no,
So
it's very true. Yeah. So let me finish up. I want to see if Isaac Jones can. I want to see him play with the starters more and see what he's got. With the understanding that once Trey Lyles is back, this team's going to look a lot different. I
play
don't
with
know.
certain starters. I don't know if I need to see him play with 4 starters, but
No.
yeah,
I agree with that, but I do like the idea of him playing with Malik Monk. That's one thing we did not address. We don't know what's going on with Malik Monk. He has something personal going on, and on Wednesday he left the game early to go deal with a personal matter. He did not make it back in time for Friday's game in the Bay Area. I have no idea, and I've always had the opinion that if it's a personal matter, it's a personal matter, and well, I just kind of leave it at that. I did talk to Malik for quite a while in the locker room on Wednesday before the game, and he was in good spirits. And we talked about him golfing and like just some random stuff. We had like a couple of minute conversation, and he didn't seem like anything was going on. So I was like slightly caught off guard when he did leave the game, and we found out that it was for personal reasons. So whatever it is, wishing sending good thoughts to Malik's way. And I do want to see him back on the court, when it's right for him. But if he's one of the ingredients, I want to see what he looks like with Isaac Jones. That's what I was trying to get to. But again, it's not that big of a deal. I want his personal whatever it is to be, better before I worry about what he looks like with a guy who might spend the entire season in the G League. So
Polo L asking about if we'll ever get a Kings Beat in-person live show. I don't know about the live show portion, but you should be able to do a happy hour with us. So that
that's
would
right.
be
I think
something
we'll figure that out. Yeah.
will we? We will.
I don't live there, Sean. You know that. I don't live there, and it's very difficult for me to deal with stuff when I'm going the opposite way the whole time. So, okay, Sean, do you have any regular final thoughts?
Regular final thoughts? Not really. I mean, the Niners have been fun to watch. I mean, I know there's a lot of up and down and a lot of injuries, and that's continuing, but they've got a nice, tough schedule coming up. You got the Cowboys, the Chiefs, Chiefs and the Cowboys on the horizon. It's they're going to be worth paying attention to, and a little more so than maybe the past few weeks. But that win in Seattle was huge.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous win. Let's see. Final thoughts from James. Number one, come out and see a preseason game because for some reason they're super fun. A lot of people
It might
showing
be
up.
a tough ticket. I mean, they've been sold out. The first one was sold out, so maybe it's a
Yeah,
tough ticket.
I totally agree. It's strangely a tough ticket. The other thing is, this is Sean and Brendan and I have been out there like nonstop. And so wherever, Sean has his stuff at Fox 40, wherever Brendan has his stuff, that's like support these guys. Give them a follow on X or Threads or whatever you feel comfortable, being following them. But make sure you're giving thumbs ups and like retweeting their stuff because they're doing a lot of good work. And so are we over at ESPN 1320. So we're back at it. We're going to crank everything up. You'll have more podcasts. You'll have more of Brendan and Sean and James. So we hope to see that you guys are you're around and supporting us in all the different ways that we produce content. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Make sure if you're still watching, you don't mind, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel.
I think we only had 25, by the way. That's a little low.
Only 25 thumbs ups when
man.
we've been on, when we've had over 100 for the entire show. Come on, people. Give us a thumbs up on the way out the door. But outside of that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being supportive with here at the Kings Beat, what we're doing, and letting us have a platform where you get a whole lot of talking from a couple of guys that are around the team that you love a ton. So for Box 40, Sean Cunningham, I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320, the Kings Beat. We'll see you again this week.